Should parents indoctrinate their children?
Our generation, we've gotten away from a lot of the things that our previous generations did because we challenge every little thing.
I can't protect them from the world, neither do I want to. I'm not going to try to. But I would like to prepare them as best as I can before I release them into the world.
Let them learn the Ten Commandments. They don't have to understand it right now. They don't have to
Yes.
be able to argue it or debate it or philosophize about it. Just know the Ten Commandments. Learn the facts.
So if you're going to believe something, you need to believe it based on information and knowledge, not just based because I said it.
The way a child's brain works is that they're sponges. They absorb information. And so at that stage, the goal is to fill their minds with as much information as possible. Just facts.
I do not believe in blind faith. I feel like somebody's going to indoctrinate your children. We have 4 beautiful children, right? And our children are homeschooled. And we teach them things. And I think my 9-year-old is a very good example of this because I ask him certain things and he'll respond like, "No, that's stupid. I never know." I'm like, and these are things that most adults would agree with. Yeah. And I'm like, "Well, son, why do you say that?" And sometimes he'll say, "Because you told me." I'm like, "Well, son, that's not a good enough reason. Like, I could be wrong. You need to know, for yourself how true that is." But that leads me to ask this question: should parents indoctrinate their children?
Well, we have to come to a consensus on what indoctrinate means.
Oh, there you go with the S.
Sorry. I realized it that time.
All right. So, okay, so I think like you used a phrase earlier. You said, you have the definition, then you have like the common understanding of what the word means. So when you hear that,
because
stay in the
the
mic.
first definition that I read was to teach a person to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Uncritically meaning, without question, without criticizing it. But I did read that initially the word indoctrinate didn't mean to teach a person to accept beliefs uncritically. It's just to teach them doctrine, or to teach them a set of principles, or a set of beliefs. So, are we going with the definition of indoctrinate, to teach someone a set of principles or doctrines? Just that, or to accept it uncritically, without question, without critiquing it, or
Well, I just think I would like to just clarify what I believe, what I think I'm doing. And I just gave an example, right? I do not believe in blind faith, blind belief. And just like when I asked my son about, for example, when they started talking about traveling to outer space and everything, I said, "Well, son, what do you think?" "Oh, that's nonsense. That's baloney." "Well, why you think that?" "Oh, if he said something like, well, because you told me this, this, and this." Well, I'm like, "Well, so how you know that's true? How you know I'm correct?" Like, Daddy could be wrong. I could make mistakes. So if you're going to believe something, you need to believe it based on information and knowledge, not just based because I said it. Even though I do want you to take what I'm telling you because I have your best interest at heart, but you still have to be able to vet information and still, confirm within yourself if something is true, if you really believe it. So I don't think that I want my children to believe something without question. I don't think I want my children to believe something without being able to criticize it and, weigh it in the balance and say if they come to the conclusion that it's true or false. I do want to be the predominant influence of my children, right? I've heard, my mom say, "Well, son, you can't protect your children from the world." You're correct. And my response was, "Well, I can't protect them from the world, neither do I want to. I'm not going to try to. But I would like to prepare them as best as I can before I release them into the world."
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just saying, well, I can't protect them from the world, so I might as well throw them out there. No, I don't. I want to prepare them as much as I can before I throw them out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the sense of being a predominant influence on what they think, what they believe, their morals, their principles, yes, I would like to indoctrinate them to that, to I guess in that aspect, but not to the point where they don't critically consider what's being taught to them. They just run with whatever it is. Like, so when I teach my children, I go out of my way to give them the evidence and proof because I want them to be able to really stand on what it is they believe based on knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and not just based on because daddy said so.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of parents fall short in that aspect of because they don't know why they do certain things and believe certain things. They just do it because that's what they was taught because it's what everybody do. I don't know, but I think parents. If I had to choose between one or the other, I think parents should indoctrinate their children.
Yes, I think there needs to be a balance because, on the other hand, our generation, we've gotten away from a lot of the things that our previous generations did because we challenge every little thing. Or, I don't have to do it the way our forefathers did it. Although that probably was the best way to do it. Certain things. But I do think it's important to give our children the big picture, not just say, well, believe this because I say so. Well, why? Like, they have to be able to relate it to the bigger picture. But I do want to say, and this reminds me of some research I was just doing about teaching math, like different ways or strategies for teaching math. So there's something called procedural math versus conceptual math. Procedural math is when you teach a child to solve a problem. You give them the formula, you teach them the formula. Like, if you want to solve this problem, this is the formula, and that's it. Versus conceptual math, you teach them the concept, you know, and teach them different ways to approach that problem. So it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, do you believe in God? Yes, because X, Y, Z. That's procedural math, the X, Y, Z. I'm going to teach you
Right.
X and Y and Z. Versus conceptual math, it's getting the bigger picture and being able to address the topic from many different angles or
Is
whatever. But there should be a balance. And also, I want to say that there's a style of education called classical education.
before because I'm gonna lose my thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say when you talk about the what do you call it, conceptual
Procedure.
math versus procedural math.
Yeah.
I think in general for me, I like both. I do
Right.
both. I teach my children. I think procedure, and then I double back and then go with the
Mm-hmm.
concept. So like
Mm-hmm.
with we went through the whole Ten Commandments thing, right? And now they can tell you the Ten Commandments not only by heart but in order. And I like to think we went over a few times since that they can tell you what each commandment means and what's the point and purpose of it. And
Exactly.
and so uh yeah, because I think because I look at it like this, right? And I'm gonna let you get back to your point.
Mm-hmm.
The procedural part, right?
Mm-hmm.
The indoctrination aspect of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I would rather do that first because what if something happened to me?
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have them indoctrinated, and then as they become adults, they'll develop and make decisions on their own from there. Uh, but if I don't do that, and it's like if I had to choose, I only had one option. I would choose to indoctrinate before just let them figure stuff out, or because I feel like somebody's going to indoctrinate your children. They're
Mm-hmm.
children. Like, it, go ahead. I don't want to because I'm about to go to a whole nother thing. Finish what you were saying.
Okay. So, with the method of education called classical education, they believe that education is pretty much divided into three stages of development. So, the first stage, basically the elementary years, the way a child's brain works is that they're sponges, they absorb information. And so, in that stage, the goal is to fill their minds with as much information as possible, just facts. And so, that's kind of more so we were talking about what you were saying. Let them learn the Ten Commandments. They don't have to understand it right now. They don't have to
Yes.
be able to argue it or debate it or philosophize about it. Just know the Ten Commandments. Learn the facts. And then the next stage, which we will consider like middle school, um, then that's when it's like a higher level of thinking, higher level of development about these facts. So now you can relate these facts to other facts and give your opinion about it, what you think about it, or whatever, whatever. And then in high school, it goes more into logic and reasoning. And so you're justifying, giving justification for is this valid or not, or whatever, whatever. I hope that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that is the natural progression of how children learn, but coming at it from that angle. So when they are young, yeah, pump them with facts, have them memorize
Well,
scripture or whatever, because that's not. I mean, that's not gonna be a solid foundation for them, later on in life as an adult. Because when it gets challenged and they don't have anything to support it,
you're right.
then
They
it can
fall
all
apart.
crumble.
Yeah.
However, uh, I think the first step is to indoctrinate them, to teach them, to have them learn the things that you hold to be truth as a parent. So whatever I believe is the truth and nothing but the truth, that's what I'm going to impart to my children. And it doesn't make sense for me to teach them something that I don't believe to be true or to confuse them. You know what I'm saying? So if I believe in the Bible, I'm not going to teach them a variety of religions or beliefs.
Right. To let them
Um,
decide on their own. That's
right. Now,
divine confusion.
I do think it's important to acknowledge, like, for example, we live in a Muslim majority country. So my children, they know what Islam is. They know what a Muslim is. We interact with Muslims. They have friends who are Muslims, but I don't teach them the beliefs, of Islam. They just know what they are able to know what it is and to have tolerance, and I think that's important too.
Oh well, we gonna have to talk about that. I don't know about that
Okay.
tolerance thing, cause I mean I want to have as much tolerance as the Most High. You know what I'm saying? Or as much tolerance as the Most High want me to have. Some things He wants to tolerate, some things He don't. Going back to the point, because you kind of touched on what I was about to go into. What I had to, I just had, as we were talking about, I just had a realization. Right? We talk about indoctrination by definition. Um, what was the definition you read? The
Teach a person to accept a set of beliefs uncritically.
uncritically. Well, I think by definition, all children are indoctrinated because they don't have the ability to think critically. So you see what I'm saying? Like how,
Yeah.
because they have to develop that skill to be able to think critically, and children
Mhm.
don't have that until probably middle school. They start
Yeah.
developing the skill to start thinking critically when they reach puberty around that age. So everything up until that point, up until middle school, 6th grade, 7th grade, is indoctrination because the child don't know enough to think critically to question certain things.
That's a good point. And if you don't mind,
Yeah.
going down the rabbit hole